Imagine a world where more women have the time to fully explore their genius. Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the UK's podcast for women leaders and founders ready to unlearn conventional rules and lead their businesses of significance. Hailed for counter-status quo ideas and a whole dose of feminine perspective, this is our International Women's Day series, sponsored by our headline partners, NatWest. My name's Lulu Minns. I host retreats and create spaces for women leaders to explore their genius. And today, I'm going to create that same space right here for you on this podcast. Welcome to episode 113 of She Rebel Radio. Embrace Boldness with Aoise Keogan-Nooshabadi and Beth Pilgrim. Aoise and Beth are the co-founders of Supply Change, who aim to redirect billions of pounds spent by the public and private sectors towards businesses driven by social and environmental good. Since their launch in 2019, they've redirected over £500,000 of spending towards social and environmental businesses and have a bold ambition to change the course of £40 million of procurement spending to social enterprises by 2027. Supply Change appeared in the top 10 of the 100 female-led businesses to watch list with NatWest and the Telegraph. Beth and Aoise are social procurement experts and have even founded the Procurement Festival to share their work. It's amazing to have you both here. How are you both doing?
Really well. Thank you so much for having us, Lulu.
Yeah, good, thank you.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And congratulations on your nomination. And I believe you've also been nominated for NatWest's Top 100 Social Enterprise list in the past, won an Innovation UK award, and been mentioned by the current Prime Minister on LinkedIn recently. How has it felt to have your bold work in redirecting money to the right places really recognised and seen?
Yeah, it's felt amazing. I mean, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. And I mean, shout out to Beth, who very recently, I think just this week, got listed on the Pioneers Post and NatWest top 100 women in social enterprise. So that's another one to kind of add to the ranks. But yeah, it's felt amazing. I mean, NatWest has been a really brilliant supporter and early champion of our work. From the very beginning, we hosted a crowdbacker event with them and the funding network when we first had the very first pitch deck, and they've supported us through the social and community capital loan. And yeah, they've shortlisted us as the top 100 social enterprise 4 years in a row now, which feels really amazing. And yeah, of course, the Prime Minister, it was a very strange notification to get on a Wednesday morning. And the Prime Minister had tagged me on a post on LinkedIn, but immediately sent it to my mum and dad, which felt very nice. But that was part of a support from Innovate UK, and we got funding and mentorship, and that's extended to, I think, 100 awardees between the ages of 18 and 30. But this is all, it's all been really brilliant. It's really helped highlight and promote our mission to a wider audience, and it feels incredibly encouraging to see the important message of social procurement and buying consciously on a B2B level being platformed and highlighted as something that really needs focus. And it's also, brought us in front of people that we might not have already been put in front of. So yeah, it's all been brilliant.
Yeah, amazing. It was a good one to find, actually, when I was doing my research for this episode with the tag on LinkedIn from the current Prime Minister. So I was like, wow, I bet that was a shout out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing. It was very surreal, to be honest. And I've never, I never had to do this before, but I had to turn my notifications off. I felt like, one of those real celebs that have no notifications on that post. But yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah, amazing. I'd love to know, why is social enterprise and the redirection of spending so important to you both as your mission? As you said, all of these awards are really highlighting that mission, and I can see that that's really close to both your hearts. Why is that?
Yeah, it is. We're both really passionate about social enterprises and the amazing work they do. Social enterprises are like everyday businesses. They deliver services and they have customers and they make profits, but crucially, they reinvest those profits back into either a social or environmental mission. So that might be employing people who face barriers to the workplace or coming up with innovative ways to tackle climate change. And it's these kinds of businesses that we really feel are going to help us as a society to deal with the future problems that we're facing, and also the problems that we're facing now. And particularly recently, social enterprises showed amazing strength and resilience throughout the pandemic. And they were often on the kind of front line of the response to the pandemic, supporting different groups of people affected by it.
Yeah.
So they're hugely important to our society and how we manage crises and how we support people. And there's a huge amount of potential for them to grow and deliver even more impact through the power of kind of both public and private sector spending. So trillions is spent every year by these businesses on just their everyday goods and services that they need for those businesses to run. And if that spend, even if just a proportion of that spend was put towards social enterprises who are delivering those services, the ripple effect of that could be vast in terms of what that will help that social enterprise to then go on to deliver and the impact that will help them to create. Mm-hmm. And I think particularly now more than ever, it's a time to support them because of the cost of living crisis. Many social enterprises are supporting vulnerable people affected by that, but also the businesses themselves will be affected by the climate we're in, and we need to kind of get behind them as much as possible now.
Absolutely. As you said, during the pandemic, and we've had, I think we're kind of in the fourth winter of discontent. Has with social enterprises being on the front line, do you feel like the general public or people are recognising social enterprises and their value is more important now than, say, they were 4 or 5 years ago?
Definitely. I think 4 or 5 years ago, the term social enterprise was relatively unknown. I don't think if you kind of asked somebody on the street what a social enterprise was, that everyone would be able to answer you, but it definitely feels like a term that is becoming more kind of in the public mindset. And I think COVID in particular forced us all to look differently at kind of the power of our spend as individuals and what we want that spend to go towards and how we want to support our communities. And I think supporting social enterprises who are directly supporting often local people, local economies, is a really effective way of doing that. And I think more and more consumers are being more discerning about where they spend their money and in what supply chains. And so I think as a reflection of that, big businesses and public sector organisations need to do the same and are looking to do that.
Yeah, it really reminded us all, didn't it, of what's on the doorstep, and community supporting community is so incredibly important. Now, I believe you both met just after university. Where did you meet, and how was your business first born?
Yeah, so we met in 2017, and we both were on a postgraduate course called Year Here, which is a year for people from any backgrounds, whether it's professional or uni or not even any education, to come and find a way to build solutions to society's toughest problems. So I came from university, straight from university into that, but Beth had already been working, and she kind of had a career before that. But I think, speaking on Beth's behalf, felt like she really wanted more. And I also was incredibly interested in using my skills to create an impact. But as part of this course, we were commissioned for a consultancy project, and our client was a housing association. And we worked on this problem that they asked us, and we thought, when they presented the question, we were like, oh, great, we'll be able to figure that out in 8 weeks. Yeah. But to this day, we're still trying to create solutions and kind of plug gaps to generate more spending for social and environmental businesses. But they asked us to look into why, as a housing association and generally in the public and private sector, so few contracts were being won by socially and environmentally impactful or focused businesses. So we did a really big research project. We spoke to a ton of people in the procurement profession and those that were running social and environmental businesses, and also those that were trying to, intermediaries that were trying to bridge the gap between both of them, and realized that there was a huge amount of appetite to spend with social and environmental businesses. And equally for these businesses, there was a huge opportunity for them to leverage the spend of the public sector and the private sector. So yeah, that's how it started. We kind of followed on from that into the third phase of the course, which was venture phase, and started to think about how can we create a sustainable business model that can support this impact and support that mission to redirect spending for more impactful means. But yeah, it's been a really brilliant journey, and I think our learning curve has been a steep one. Well, I speak from my part anyway. But I think one thing that's been really, really brilliant is having co-founders. And I think when I came straight from university, I had very little professional experience. It's a handful of internships and a couple of summer waitressing jobs.
Yeah.
But having Beth and her kind of like professional experience, and also another co-founder as well, it was just brilliant for me to feel really supported and kind of nurtured into that role of finding a business, which is, yeah, been brilliant.
Yeah, and I love your explanation there in terms of, you found a huge appetite for, the spend to go a different way. And did you both know what the term procurement was at that time, or was that something that you discovered in your research that now you're, huge experts in and have the procurement festival as well?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I remember Googling some very simple things back at the very beginning, and I don't even think I want to admit what those things are, but Google's definitely your friend. And, once you've looked it up, you know it, and then you can kind of go with it. But I mean, it was really a lot to learn, and it was a whole new space for us entirely. I did law and French at uni, and there was nothing in there, some interaction with the public sector through judicial law, but it really was just a complete learning experience for me anyway. But I think, we really put our all into it, and when we realized the opportunity, it ignited this passion within us. And we're continuously, learning about it, gaining knowledge about it, continuously having our finger on the pulse to what's really happening out there, and trying to try to drive the mission even further.
And I love how you explained there as well, this one question that was given to you that you came across, you thought, oh yeah, 8 weeks, that's enough, and then actually you can build a whole business, and there's so much depth around one question, which is a big one. And I think there can be a tendency sometimes to overcomplicate things in business, and solving one big problem and one big question is more than enough. How did you both make that bold decision that you two, that you were the two women who could make this change and solve the problem of where money was being spent by public and private sectors? And have there been any hurdles that you've had to overcome to be where you are now?
Yeah, so I guess when we were doing the research project, we realized that it was a big problem, and there were many different factors to it, and different potential approaches and solutions that we could have developed. But one that we felt we really wanted to focus on was the lack of visibility and accessibility for social enterprises to understand what spend was out there, both in the public and private sector. And time again, social enterprises were telling us, we want to work with these businesses, but we don't know where to go to find these contracts. And similarly, buyers were telling us, we understand the value of social enterprises and we want to work with them, but we don't know where to go to find them and to find social enterprises that we can trust.
Yeah.
So we really sort of thought that there was this gap in the market and sweet spot for us to develop something. And also we felt like existing solutions weren't working. And I think there was just really a moment when we thought, well, why don't we build it? And it definitely felt scary at the time because, neither of us had started a business before. And it also felt like quite a big sector to suddenly enter into, the world of procurement. But we also felt like we had gained a lot of insight into the problem from all the research that we were doing. and we could see why there were solutions out there that weren't working. And we felt that we could bring something new and a fresh perspective. And that's what really gave us the idea to set up the Supply Change platform, which allows buyers to connect with social enterprise suppliers and to be introduced to them, and allows social enterprises to be showcased to buyers in a really simple, quick and easy way. And so, yeah, that's kind of why we decided this is the approach we're going to take, and why we felt we were the right people to do that. But there's definitely been challenges along the way. I think we've learned a lot from just kind of putting our product out there and testing it and seeing what works and what doesn't. And sometimes we've had positive feedback, sometimes we've had negative feedback, and we've also had to deal with kind of external factors like changes in public sector legislation and internal barriers within the organizations we're trying to work with. But I think over time we've become bolder and more resilient, and have just kept going, really.
Yeah. And do you feel that you both bring different things to the table? Aoise, you said that you hadn't had a full-time job before, as it were. You've done I think you said placements and things like that. How did that kind of unfold for you in terms of you both bringing different things to the table to build the business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, at the beginning, that's an exercise that every new team needs to go through. What are your skills? What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? And trying to divvy out roles and responsibilities based on that. I think it'd be interesting to hear from Beth on this one, but I think one of my kind of strengths is that I'm quite open to taking risks and just trying out new things. Whereas I think Beth's very, calculated and does a lot of thinking about things before we run into it. And I think that balance is really valuable for us. But yeah, Beth, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I would really agree. Often Aoise is like definitely the ideas one out of the two of us, and she'll come to me with a really exciting new idea, and sometimes I need to be the one to kind of to be like, okay, yes, we're going to do this, and other times I'll be like, okay, but we also need to think about this and what's the impact and stuff. So it's, as Aoise said, I think it creates a really good balance. And I think although I've had kind of previous professional experience in my career before we started the business, it was still a new topic to me. And so I think we've really kind of helped each other to learn as we go, and realized what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are, and kind of leaned on each other for different things. And I think that is, the beauty of having a co-founder, but also as an entrepreneur in general. I think that's the beauty of making sure you surround yourself with peers and other people going on a similar journey as you, because you can learn so much from others along the way. And it's definitely, even if you're a solo founder, I think it's good to make sure you have similar minds around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like, I call it the visionary and the architect dynamic. We were talking about that at a workshop I hosted recently of, the visionary having the ideas and the architect working out the plan and the steps around that. And when you work with someone opposite to you in that, it can really, really create magic. I understand Walt Disney was a visionary, but his brother, I think it was the real architect in terms of working out the steps. So it's a really good combination. Now, you have a bold ambition to extend your $500,000 of redirected money to 40 million in the next 4 years. Talking about steps, what bold steps will you be taking to achieve that?
Yeah, so we've definitely set ourselves a high target, but it's one that we believe that we can achieve. We're going to focus on scaling up the digital side of our business, so growing our platform of social enterprises that we can connect buyers to, but also making sure that we're expanding into new sectors all the time. So at the moment, we work a lot with clients across the construction sector, in housing, in government, but really any business or any public and private sector organization has the power to use their spend for good. So we also want to work more with financial services and professional services, with the technology sector, and expand our reach in the public sector as well. And we also want to broaden the remit of social businesses that we support. We've started off focusing on social enterprises, but there are actually a range of different types of social impact businesses that exist, like B Corps and like cooperatives. So we want to make sure that we're supporting all of those types of businesses as well. And we want to make sure that we broaden our influence as an organisation within the sectors that we operate in. So making sure that we have a seat at a table in important discussions that are happening around public sector procurement, but also making sure that our clients that we work with and strategic decisions that they're making around procurement, that we're able to influence those so we can have a kind of lasting legacy, and ensure that the kind of culture of social procurement becomes the norm.
Yeah, amazing. Such incredible steps that you're going to be taking to build out of, build the business out of. I think, because did you start in really the construction industry as well, and really making those, because you're kind of a matchmaker, aren't you, in terms of the businesses and matching them, as you say, with the social enterprises?
Yes, we are. The construction sector, it really sort of happened organically, but they are often strategic suppliers to government, and they deliver a lot of contracts for government, like building schools or highways. And in recent years, government has passed legislation that now requires organisations who are bidding for public sector work to demonstrate the social value in their tenders and in the work that they do. So we saw a real kind of increase in interest from the construction sector in wanting to engage with social enterprise suppliers as a result. And we've really, I guess, kind of monopolized on that opportunity and built up great traction in that area. But we want to kind of replicate that in other sectors, really.
Yeah, and it's always a great idea, isn't it, to have that real focus at the beginning and try and test your ideas, and then to really expand it out, which is where you're at now, which is amazing to hear. Now, how can we as women leaders embrace more boldness and innovation? What would be some of your top tips?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that we've learned over the last couple of years. But one thing I think, from my perspective anyway, is not to be afraid to put things out there, even if they're not perfect. And there is so much learning that can happen from just, putting something out there, even if it's in its very early stage, and just getting feedback on it, and just seeing how it kind of lands with customers or any other stakeholders that you're engaging with. I think also, as like a young person, like I came straight out of university to start a business. I think just not being afraid, and you will feel incredibly out of place and that you are not supposed to be in the room, but really have faith and really believe in yourself that you are meant to be there, and that every day you're learning, and every day you're getting to that place where you will feel like you belong in the room. And I think I can safely say, after all those years, that I know that we are supposed to be in that room, and we are meant to be part of this conversation in a space that might not be often having young women there. So I think just really believing in yourself, and making sure that you remember that you are supposed to be in that place. And I think one other thing is always reaching out to others and taking inspiration from others, and speaking to people who understand how to overcome business challenges that you might be facing. And you might not be working in the same sector or even on the same solution, but it's very, very likely that challenges that you're facing right now in your business have been overcome by someone else in some capacity, whether it was on a much smaller scale or a much larger scale, but there's always someone out there who can help you. And I think one thing that's really important in order to get that help is to find a good peer network. And there's so many out there. And NatWest has done really great work with the Telegraph to bring that list of 100 women. And I'm currently in a WhatsApp group with the top 10 highly commended. And we are, constantly chatting and sharing tips and things like that. And we will see each other at events, and it's just really brilliant to have that support network there that we can kind of reach out to and ask different questions based on current challenges or successes that we're having.
Yeah, amazing. It's incredible to hear that network, what an opportunity it's been, and it continues, doesn't it, to move forward and grow together. And I think you used the word freshness earlier in the interview of trusting that you can bring that to a room and that and have a totally different perspective, which can really change industries and make a huge difference on rooms that you may have previously felt that like you don't belong. So that's a great tip as well, Aoise. Thank you so much. Now, what 3 things are you going to be embracing this year, either business-wise or personally?
So I think for me, one thing that I'm going to be embracing, well, actually both personally and professionally, is to make the most of every opportunity and connection that is offered to you. You can, never know where it might lead. So if someone, if you meet somebody at a networking event, someone offers to kind of take you for a coffee or mentoring, all those connections we have found in our experience have led us to maybe another connection or to a potential sale, and it's always worth exploring things to see where they go, and just to be open to, I suppose, what could happen, especially in the kind of social enterprise sector. People are always willing to help, we have found, so definitely being open to that. And then also, I think, teaching ourselves new skills. Although we have talked about kind of the importance of leaning on other people and asking others for help and learning from others, actually what we found from setting up Supply Change is we're capable of so much, and we always kind of assume, oh, someone else will be better at that and maybe we need to outsource this. But actually you can teach yourself a lot. And I think we want to continue to embrace that and to continue to develop our skills as entrepreneurs and business women. So we'll be doing that. And finally, to be fearless. I think that, often, particularly as women, we can doubt ourselves and maybe think that, what we're doing isn't good enough. But if you just, take that kind of seize the day attitude and put something out there and go for it, good things can happen as a result. And there's no time like the present. So I think just continuing to, take risks and be bold, as you say.
Yeah, I love that. And with being fearless, I think the world's never been more ready for more fearless women ready to step into industries, change things up, and bring something really new to the table. So thank you for sharing, Beth. Now, what else is next for you, and where can we find you at Supply Change?
Yeah, lots of exciting things, which is keeping us very busy for sure. We have the Social Procurement Festival 2023 coming up next month, and that is really exciting. We're really focusing on the opportunity of social procurement and how we can future-proof through social procurement. And we've got a brilliant lineup of speakers for that as well, from organisations like Deloitte and NatWest are joining us as well. Some brilliant social enterprises like Miss Macaroon and Waste to Wonder. And it's just going to be a really brilliant chance to learn about social procurement, where it's heading, how to implement it, really ignite passion within people for this movement. And also just to meet other people in the space, both buyers and social enterprise suppliers, who are really interested in working with each other and finding different ways that we can support the movement moving forward. So that's really exciting. That's happening on the 29th and 30th of March. And you can find all those details on how you can sign up for that festival on our website, which is supplychange.co.uk. Aside from that, we've got really brilliant plans to improve our product and put a lot of resource into our technical upgrades, just to make our platform and the work that we're doing even better and bring us closer to that bold mission of redirecting £40 million by 2027. But yeah, it's all very exciting. It's I don't know if we've ever had a kind of dull moment at Supply Change. But I think I'm incredibly grateful for that, because it is very exciting, and it's brilliant to be part of this movement that and be contributing to it, because I think it's going to be pretty transformative for years to come.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Aoise and Beth, for sharing your bold mission and your bold steps with us here on She Rebel Radio.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks, Lulu.
You've been listening to She Rebel Radio. We thank you for listening and thank our headline partners NatWest for sponsoring this series. If this episode has inspired you, please pass it on and share with at least one other incredible woman, and don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a review. You can find out more about me and my work at luluminns.com or on most social media platforms.